I've had some requests to respond to the Ackman's video on why Doom the Dark Ages was disappointing to him. And I don't want to get into regular reaction content, but I actually talked to the Ackman, and we're knocking around the idea of a discussion video together, which I think could be really cool. So to get my thoughts together and to give him a better idea of my perspective leading up to our talk, and yeah, to entertain the audience a bit, let's look at his video. Let me say first that I'm not here to crap on the Ackman for his takes and stir up a bunch of hate. I'm not innocent of bad or controversial takes myself, as everyone knows. I've liked his channel since the Dead Space video, I rooted for him in his copyright controversy, and he helped me out with a voice cameo in one of my Silent Hill videos. I come in peace. This is not a call out, this is an invitation to the acting male to listen and ponder a bit about how he'd like to respond, hopefully after a second playthrough is under his belt. Now the video. Ackman's video starts with a large emphasis on the absence of glory kills. The opening 7 minutes are exclusively about kill animations. That's as much time as I spent in my Silent Hill 2 remake review complaining about the camera, so it definitely means a lot to him if he's gonna open the video with this.
I'll say it again. They got rid of glory kills. And some of you might be saying, oh no, Ackman, you're just exaggerating, you're being hyperbolic. Okay, you're right. So we agree they got rid of them by about like 95%. If you get 100% of a pizza, and in the next pizza you order, you only get 5% of the pizza. Well, that's less pizza. Oh, see, it's weird, man. Sometimes you can get the kills off, and other times you can't. I don't get you.
I don't get you.
Saying they got rid of glory kills is like saying Master Chief took his helmet off. Like,
You what?
like my brain just.
People think it's just playing the same melee strike every time.
Even the robot just does a kick, man. Come on.
Kicking? Oh, I want to do some kicking.
He still does the kick. Even on like one of the last bosses, he still does the same fucking kick. Do I even need to explain why glory kills are awesome? It boggles the mind because some of the glory kills you can pull off in very specific circumstances are pretty sweet. Glory kills have been replaced by
executions.
They're more like executions, you know, you're able to just move from one guy to the next.
Glory kills weren't in the original games, but they were a way of modernizing Doom back in 2016. They added a cinematic feel that you never saw in any other FPS. It is stupid how it doesn't matter the size or shape of a demon when you execute them all the same. It breaks my immersion constantly when I'm annihilating some 20-foot demon and it ends with like just a basic fucking kick. Take that, 5-ton behemoth. There was so much creativity in these killing animations. It wasn't just like mindless action, but to reinforce the idea that this is why Doom Guy is the only thing they fear. When you see how he kills the demons, you know why they fear him. But for whatever reason, it seems id Software didn't understand that or consider that when developing Dark Ages. If you're gonna replace something that's so awesome and integral about the last 2 games, you gotta give us something of equal or greater value. In some ways, Dark Ages feels like it has gotten lazy.
I think that feeling of immense disappointment at the much lower presence of glory kills is totally valid. We know that large enemies have 2 different from above glory kills if you execute in the air, and they are awesome, but sure, I wish there were more. I love glory kills. I think his 5% is an exaggeration, but I respect the sentiment. I also wish there were more variations of melee strikes for the execution system to avoid so much repetition. And I agree that it's not satisfying to kill a cyber demon by punching him in the leg and watching him fall over. The kick montage, however, is misleading. I understand he's making a point of getting tired of the same animations, but you do also punch and shield strike with both punch and bash animations, backhand, flail strike. It's not a huge variety, but it's certainly more than just a kick. And a casual viewer who hasn't played the game will come away from this video thinking it's just a kick every time, and that's just not the case. I also wish Actman had talked more about the impact on combat flow, because the benefit of this real-time execution system is that the combat has fewer breaks and you're able to execute more enemies in succession. I think they went too far in the application of the slow-mo effect, but a slider to adjust it is in works and we'll see that in an update. But in these executions, you're able to look around, which allows you to plan your next move and react to the incoming attacks. There are more enemies this time. It's common to have multiple projectiles coming at you as you go for these executions. And if you were always locked into glory kill animations, you wouldn't be able to deal with the Dark Ages onslaught nearly as well. I like this new flow a lot. However, I don't think the Actman is wrong to care deeply about the glory kill change, and be disappointed that there are a lot fewer instances of them in moment-to-moment combat. I think he makes a good point about it making him feel less badass. He's right that the leader fight heart rips are just the same animation over and over. I imagine that was a budget issue, and I want more variation too. He's not wrong to feel the way he does about it. He's genuinely upset, and I get it. But there's more going on in this system that deserves to be talked about, and I wish we could have heard a lot more about what he liked about the combat in this video.
Like these death animations. If you have a life sigil, then instead of like falling over and dying or exploding and your helmet comes off. It's so weird to just have a menu pop up to be like, you have died. Like you're there fucking adrenaline pumping and then just, you have died. Yeah, it's so dumb that you have died. Show me dying. Oh shit, the demons can glory kill me?
He's absolutely right about the life sigil interruptions. They are poorly implemented because they rob you of the feeling of death. It's not that you can't see yourself die, you absolutely can if you choose not to use them, but their shocking appearance right before you die is incredibly jarring and needs to be fixed. They're so bad that I recommend not picking up life sigils at all when you play. Let's start the next section of Actman's video, a new kind of Doom.
This is a new kind of Doom, a simpler Doom. How simple is it? Well, they got rid of the double jump and the dash, and the grapple hook. And as a result, the puzzles, the exploration is just an objective downgrade. Yeah, a lot of the secret areas do not feel like secret areas. They feel like, you looked down, good job. What they got rid of, they replaced with something worse. Instead of the double jump, now we have swimming? I never ever imagined Doom Guy swimming, unless he was heading to Rapture to kill everyone there. Jack versus Doom Guy? Who's coming out on top? Taking all bets. I think I can remember one instance when I was like swimming and there was like fire or something to avoid. It's filler. It's filler. Levels are much more linear and less labyrinthine. Most puzzles are pretty easy to figure out with landmarks so colorful and unmistakable it's hard to miss them. But in previous games, often you would have to really take in your surroundings, and sometimes you'd find a secret trapdoor that doesn't have an obvious marker except for the tiny little button prompt. And this would lead you to a secret area that would reward you with an upgrade to your suit.
He's right about the swimming. There's a lot more swimming in this game. There's nothing interesting about it, and you don't have the dash anymore to move through it faster. It's just holding up and waiting to get to the other side. I personally don't mind it so much, but I can also admit that it sucks. I think people are wrong to try to point out hypocrisy by bringing up Eternal's swimming and that the Actman didn't complain about it back then, because the context is different. Like I said, there's no way to move quickly through these sections like you could in Eternal, and it only happened like twice in one level the entire campaign. Here it happens several times in multiple levels and goes on for much longer. It's a totally valid thing to criticize here. Regarding movement, I don't like the framing of "they got rid of it," because Doom is a series that has always reinvented itself for 3 decades now. It's not like Double Dash and Meat Hook are staples of the series, they were in one game. You might as well get upset at Doom 3 for getting rid of the type of movement the original games had. This isn't Doom Eternal 2, it's the Dark Ages, and it's a different experience with action designed to complement the new weighty movement of the character. And it's odd to me that he would talk about the removal of the meat hook and dash while not adding that the new shield bash is actually an excellent mobility tool, ready for use every few seconds, sending you flying across the battlefield and up to vertical spaces. He doesn't mention this until minute 31 of his video, when it should be mentioned here when talking about the changes in mobility options. As for the secrets, this is an area where it's largely going to be a matter of disagreement. I think the implementation of secret areas works really well for the flow of the Dark Ages. These are big levels you can explore where they're also trying to keep the action going. It's not like new God of War where you want to take 30 minutes of your time to go explore the map and not fight anyone. I like that most of the secrets are just quick little asides, with a secret here and there taking some real thought about how to access it. But hey, he's not wrong that secrets overall felt a lot more secret in the other games, especially Doom 2016. You really had to look around and notice something. The secret level cranks were genuine discoveries. You were rewarded for jumping to a dangerous off-map area in the spirit of risky exploration. There's something beautiful about that, that's lost in the new way of doing things. I get that, and I would totally love to see the inclusion of some of these styles of secrets in the Dark Ages in addition to what we have. But at the same time, the way that most of the secrets are implemented, I think complements the overall design of the game. While many secrets are simple, as he showed, he failed to highlight secrets that are not. There's a scene that comes later in the video where he shows a pretty poor example of secret implementation.
The exploration, while simple, fun, and easy, doesn't feel nearly as rewarding as, taking 5 or so minutes to be like, that's how you get into that room, Doom the Dark Ages seems to de-emphasize exploration and instead fill those quiet moments with more combat. Thus, the combat feels more repetitive because there's less breaks in between. Come on, this is a secret. Come on. All I did was go left. That's not a secret.
Yeah, the secret area isn't discovered by just making a turn on this bridge. The entire bridge is the secret. You just get the notification when you reach the jewel at the end. The map objective leads you down the hill, but if you head up into this broken down ship, fight some nightmare imps in the dark, explode the barrels at the end of the room, and find this top area, you can drop a box that frees a jump pad that takes you to this bridge. All of that is how to get to this secret jewel, so this is not a good example of secrets being badly implemented. Especially since in this same level, just one area before, you find one of the more old school style secrets in the game, which would have been wonderful to feature in a discussion about secret design. You see gold behind a wall, but there's no visible way in. The map shows you the area you gotta get to, but there's no clue or obvious signal to follow. You actually have to explore and discover these exploding barrels buried under the floor in another room. The explosion causes an opening in a different area, which leads you down to the gold. There are good secrets to showcase in this game. It's not all just to look down and get a prize. Again, I do agree that the inclusion of true unsignaled secrets would be nice. I don't think we have to worry so much about the people who cry about not being able to find all the secrets, so they can't get the 100% trophy without a guide. I say fuck 'em. But there are some secrets that do require you to stop and figure it out. Hell, a couple of those underwater pathway secrets slipped by me for multiple playthroughs, and most of the easy secrets work for the flow of level progression this game is trying to maintain. I honestly think that if most of the secrets in the Dark Ages required you to stop and think for 5 minutes, in these maps that can take 2 hours to finish on your first time, therefore adding another 45 minutes onto each one, that would be exhausting.
And this would lead you to a secret area that would reward you with an upgrade to your suit. Oh yeah, remember the suit? Why are there no upgrades for it?
Because this time you're upgrading 6 levels of the shield, 4 levels of 3 unique melee weapons, and 4 levels of 4 unique shield parry abilities with the runes. None of this is mentioned anywhere in the video. It should have been mentioned right here, instead of making people think they've just taken away character upgrades and given you nothing in place for them for this new experience. It's not just that they removed suit upgrades so the game is worse. Alright, the next section focuses on melee, and I think this is where my biggest disagreements lie.
One of the big changes made is with melee, and the game's first new weapon, the Power Fist. Let's just get some of the bad stuff out of the way. Melee combat is weird in this game. The Power Gauntlet charges regenerate over time or by finding melee ammo.
What?
Melee ammo? Imagine if they did this shit in Halo. Whoa, you can't whack your pistol 3 times in a row. What are you, crazy? You know, Master Chief gets tired too.
This is a pretty poor comparison given the different designs of these games and how melee works. Actman certainly knows Halo way more than I do, and I dive a lot deeper into Doom than he does. But yeah, I know if you put this mechanic directly into Halo, it wouldn't work because it's not balanced or designed around it. Here it is, so it's not a problem. Melee in the Dark Ages is like Eternal's chainsaw. You get ammo from it. So it can't be a traditional just press the button to punch whenever you want kind of option. Melee is also a guaranteed falter against imps, meaning you could stunlock them for free anytime you see them if you could just swing infinitely. The third strike of your gauntlet is a falter against even the biggest enemies in the game, delivering power compared to a super shotgun blast. Does he want people to be able to do this all the time? It unfortunately demonstrates a lack of understanding for the actual mechanical function of melee in this game, because he's comparing it to other games' melee. It's way too strong of an option to treat it traditionally, and it's honestly not hard to understand how it works if you don't just insist that you should be able to punch anytime you want, and then cross your arms in stubbornness about it. Sorry, I know I'm being a little harsh here, but this part really stood out to me as just not wanting to accept and experiment with a new system.
I don't understand. If you're going to set Doom in a medieval fantasy setting, why would you limit melee combat? Wouldn't that be like a main focus? Stand and fight? Instead, it's like this weird pseudo hybrid. Melee combat in Dark Ages is like a boxing match, but with all the complexity and strategy of, say, Punch-Out on NES. That's not a dig at Punch-Out, that's just how simple and basic the melee combat is, that it could be compared to an NES game. I mean, you put Doom Guy in a setting where he has access to spears, halberds, crossbows, there is a crossbow, bastard swords, axes, and maces, all of this potential to just give us 3 melee weapons.
Yeah, it's a hybrid. That's what's so cool about it. And as for being basic, I mean, it's not a game that's entirely melee focused. It's about the shield abilities, your upgrades, weapon synergies. Dismissing melee as basic is to dismiss essentially everything, but it's the interesting combination of several basic mechanics that create complexity. And again, this is just a lack of understanding for how melee actually works. He said ultra-violence difficulty was just right for him.
I played on ultra-violence for this review, and the difficulty felt just right.
But maybe not. Maybe he needed to play Nightmare, because he might have noticed more applications for melee, and felt a stronger punishment for not using it intelligently. Using the falter against imps, timing strikes during other falter states as an ammo opportunity, and strategically timing the kick against larger enemies. There's cool stuff to learn about melee functionality. Comparing the Dark Ages melee combat to the depth of an NES game is looking at it in a vacuum. You can't do that because it's not entirely a melee combat game. You're not just running in and swinging punches, you're swinging one punch, turning to parry, firing your shotgun, doing a shield bash to falter, and then continuing your melee string into an execution, and finishing off with a kick on a heavy enemy to set up another falter into shotgun. If you divorce the shield actions and your guns from the melee options, you might as well be excluding your uppercut and body shots from a discussion about boxing. You're not considering your entire toolkit and how they work together and then judging the game based on it. And being upset about only 3 melee weapons? Come on, do we have to have 10 different melee weapons, each with their own 7 to 8 unique attacks, for melee to be a fun feature in a Doom game? It sounds like he wants to be playing something else at times, and it just isn't fair to ask for what he's asking for in a game that's also full of gun and shield play on top.
Which, by the way, 2 of the attacks on the Power Fist is a shield bash and a kick. kicking with a power fist.
Okay, sure. I can see it. They're gauntlets. You expect to be punching with them, but it also does other attacks, while the flail is entirely flail hits. I can't say that he's wrong. They're gauntlets, and only one attack in the series is a punch. I just never thought of it that way, as something to criticize. But sure, yeah, the gauntlets give you more than just a punch, and I suppose you could see that as a bad thing. I certainly don't. I think it's pretty nitpicky, but hey, nitpicks tossed in with some genuine criticism makes our reviews fun and allows us to preserve our personalities, so I'll let it slide.
It feels like bumper cars, because every time you whack a demon, it slows down and you bounce backwards. Doom Guy is the only thing they fear, and this stick bug looking motherfucker, the guy that in the last game you can smack his head and bash it into his neck like a baked potato? Why am I bouncing off of this guy? In martial arts, I was taught not to strike an enemy, to strike through them. If you're punching someone, you don't stop your fist when you make contact. You want to knock their head off. And that's the type of feeling you got in previous games when you would execute glory kills. And Doom Guy would slash through them, he would charge at them. When he would go berserk, he would just punch them and send them flying. No knockback.
I never noticed this as something to be, I guess, immersion breaking, this whole bounce back thing. I just feel it as some kind of impact explosion, like the hit is so intense there's a shockwave. I don't know if that was the intention, but that's how it feels to me, and I like it. But it's another one of those areas where we just have a different experience, and we value different things, so whatever. Actman knows a lot more about actual fighting than I do, so I'll give it to him.
Another big change is that you no longer have the insta-kill melee, be it a chainsaw or the crucible sword, both of which were pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, there's no insta-kill melee, but I think there's great value in the things we do have. Personally, I get really hype over being able to strategically preserve the kick of my melee series, to target it on a Hell Knight and watch him explode as a reward. I did a whole 5-minute montage on how awesome the kick is. I would never do that for the chainsaw. And what about the Dread Mace? That is an insta-kill on many demons, and then on the big ones, it's a guaranteed falter that will either stun for additional combo damage or put them into a dazed state right away. Again, look at what we do have if you're talking about what we don't.
You see, this review is not just about what Dark Ages has, but also what it has lost. There is no multiplayer, snap map, battle mode, horde mode, not even a demon dating simulator. What's that? You like the campaign? You enjoyed what you played and you want more? Sorry, restaurant is closed. Go eat somewhere else. Why?
Doom Eternal didn't have 2016's snap map or arcade mode, so that game has less content. But it also had a much deeper developed combat system and like double the enemy types in the campaign. You can't just judge a game's content by the modes that it offers. You also have to look at what they've been able to expand in the modes that they keep. I'm not saying it wouldn't be great to always have snap map and multiplayer in every Doom, sure, but resources are finite and I would rather them not spread themselves thin if they have ambitious ideas for a campaign expansion. Also, not fair to mention Horde mode, as Horde mode was added to Doom Eternal a year and a half after launch. You can't mention it as a missing feature in the Dark Ages in month 2. We currently do not know what's coming to the game outside of master levels, but there's gonna be some exciting stuff coming in the next months regarding replayability. Now we get into the story section, and I am entirely in agreement with the acting male. So much that I'm just gonna show you what he said, and I'm not gonna comment much on it.
But to sum up the plot, I mean, there's a bad demon guy, and he wants more power, and you don't want him to have that power. So you fly all around Demon Land, ripping and tearing, and that's pretty much it. We don't even know what the inciting incident is. Why are demons attacking this random village? Doesn't matter. All that matters is that Doom Guy is being held captive. This is the one interesting part of the story. The idea that weird alien things and this Captain Fatfuck guy are somehow controlling Doom with this technology. I wanted to see how that played out. I would be happy if Dark Ages could at least provide the bare minimum, the basics, like context. So often the transition from mission to mission is just an abrupt stop. You're no longer here, now you're here. I don't really know what the fuck has been happening in the story, honestly. It's like hell's back on this dragon, yeah, just fucking, you know the drill. Yeah, where the fuck am I now? You know what I mean? I'm going to all these cool places. It kind of reminds me of Halo 5. You're going to all these places that look cool, but you don't know what the fuck you're doing there. What am I doing? I don't even know. I really don't even know. I could not tell you what the fuck I'm doing. What's weird about Dark Ages is that its plot is hard to describe because there's so little of it. There's very few things that are actually worth spoiling. While Doom 2016 feels like a game that wants you to take things slow, it's almost like Dark Ages thinks that's boring. What players like is combat, and that's it. Let's pick a random Dark Ages mission as an example. Number 15, City of Ryul. So the plot of this mission is you go through a portal, you kill demons for 20 minutes, then go through another portal, mission over. The cosmic realm awaits. 4 words is all of the narrative they could spare for this one level. What was the point? What is the cosmic realm?
He's right about all of this. Many levels are not well established, the story is paper thin, and somehow also confusing because it's stretched out across so many cutscenes and long levels. It's not very interesting, and it's valid to criticize the story in a Doom game that contains so much story presentation. 2016 got it right. If you're gonna have a real simple story, tell it in a simple way. If you're gonna go big with all these important characters, you need to make me care about them. The opening conflict is poorly established, and the one interesting thing, the Doomslayer being controlled by the Makers, is not set up and ultimately goes nowhere as he just breaks out and goes on a different mission to chase a MacGuffin. It feels like the way they tell stories in Doom Eternal and the Dark Ages is for people who are already obsessed with all the lore, that you're supposed to jump into this game already knowing what's going on and where you are, and that's just not the case for 99% of people. Hell, I barely know what's going on.
Like in the mission Siege, Azrak launches an assault on the Sentinel stronghold. He's got this big ass cool ship with fucking skull on the front. Oh man, I guess we gotta infiltrate that now. No, take out AA cannons? And what? Portals? Huh? Shouldn't we use the AA cannons to shoot at the guy on the ship? Wait a minute, everybody's just sitting in a castle behind the shield. Why do I need to take out AA cannons? We don't even have air support.
Yeah, that's fair. I didn't think about this much because I was entirely focused on the combat mechanics, exploring, upgrading, the art design, all that stuff. But yeah, why are we taking out AA cannons without even seeing that we have air support to defend? What does this mission have to do with the big enemy air fleet we saw approaching in the cutscene? Yeah, I get this complaint. It didn't bother me, it still doesn't, but he's not wrong to be bothered by it.
This leads me to my next point. The characters suck. Everyone is worthless in Dark Ages except you. It actually becomes irritating how little a role Thera, Novik, and the other Sentinels and soldiers play in the story. They just stand around waiting for you to solve all their problems, never doing anything themselves, and everyone is relegated to spouting boring expository dialogue. It yawn. Compare this to Samuel Hayden. I mean, 2016 only had like 3 characters.
Everything has clearly gotten out of hand now, yes. But it was worth the risk, I assure you.
But he was great because he helped guide you through the facility and the story. But he was also a weird robot that sounded like a bad guy, and he kept talking about how much he loves demon energy and wanted to continue his work when his work caused this incident in the first place, but yet he's helping you stop it. See, at least I can describe the 3-4 characters in 2016. I can't do that for Dark Ages. What's the point of having all these people suck up screen time when they don't do a goddamn thing?
Yeah, I was pretty disappointed in the characters too. I thought Novik would be cool, judging by his introduction in Eternal. I loved that scene. but he's pretty boring in the Dark Ages. And the best character of the series lore, the Betrayer, goes without his story actually being told. It's all pretty disappointing.
Dark Ages is all style and little substance. It's the epitome of tragedy, that such beautiful imagery and art could be so wonderfully crafted, but not filled with enough interesting elements. Like, here's a good example, the Cyber Dragon, Sarat. When did we get a Cyber Dragon? You know what would have been cool is if Sarat was its own boss fight, but instead of killing the dragon like Doom Guy normally would, he tames it like a fucking cowboy in the Wild West. And then you could kind of play a little bit, Arthur Morgan with his horse kind of relationship.
Fantastic idea. I wish they had done this. Now we get into the combat mechanics section of the video, and this is where the issues for me start to boil over. We'll start with the comments on parrying.
It's a unique spin on the classic formula. Like before, at first it's fun parrying projectiles, learning the patterns, and adapting to them on the fly. The shield is super fucking cool. Being able to throw it and implant it in a big demon to stun it. The shield bash lets you fly across the battlefield similar to the grapple hook. But over the course of time, it starts to become apparent that a lot of enemies shoot the same projectile. The problem I have is how prevalent parrying is when it's such a simple mechanic.
You can't say that many of the enemies use the same projectile when so many have different projectiles. Yes, you can parry all of the parryable projectiles, that's a big part of the game, but imp fireballs are very slow moving and track your location. Pinky Riders shoot a flurry of rays at you that you have to weave through to parry the right one, which could be on either side. Revenants shoot 5 curving projectiles at you with only 2 being parryable. Cacodemons, Revenants, and Pinky Riders have delayed timing sniper shots. Cosmic Barons send out a line of 5 projectiles with the parryable one changing location each time, so it can be hard to be ready for it. Block the wrong one and watch your shield break. I will repeat, maybe he should have played on a higher difficulty, and that would have shown him the importance of learning these crucial differences. Mixed into parryables, we have many kinds of non-parryables that either have to be blocked, or jumped over, sidestepped, projectiles that act as fences and block your shots. This is the Doom with the most projectile variety by far, and it's not even a question. So, if we have a variety of projectile sizes, shapes, speeds, and methods of dealing with them, what's the issue? Is the issue that many of them can be parried while many can't? How else would you want it? I do think we need more non-parryable melee attacks, so there's more to think about when fighting up close. Maybe we'll get that in an update someday. And I think the Revenant's patterns should change like the Cosmic Baron, but the parry game is pretty solid.
Every attack you parry slows the game down, to the point where it got so annoying, I tried looking through the settings if there was a way to disable it. Between the weird knockback and slow-mo effect, the game starts to feel sluggish, like it's compensating for a lack of depth in the melee combat.
Yep, agree on the slow-mo. We'll have an answer to that soon.
Sometimes it's cool to pull off a parry, but other times it feels like you're just spamming the block button and instinctively parrying every attack that's thrown your way, effectively dumbing down your available strategies.
The issue of mashing parry is a complicated one because we're dealing with a game that has such chaotic action where you're expected to parry 3 to 4 attacks in a small window from multiple enemies, while also blocking non-parryables, all on the same button. There is an anti-spam protection in the game, but it's not where it needs to be, and the devs are looking at how to adjust it. But again, this is also a difficulty issue. I'm pretty certain that Actman felt he could get away with mashing parry and occasionally failing the parry because of it, simply because he wasn't taking the shield damage he would if he were playing on Nightmare. On Nightmare, your shield can break from 2, sometimes even 1 bad parry attempt or block of a big attack. No matter what they do to the system, you'll always be able to do kind of a double tap parry. In a game where block and parry share a button and there's so much fast action, it's never gonna be a laser-tight, super strict mechanic in this crazy arcade-style shooter. But it could be better, and anyone who finds parrying to be too forgiving should, at minimum, try lowering the parry window and playing on a higher difficulty so their mistakes are more harshly punished.
Dodging in the dragon or the robot levels is incredibly simplistic. Like in the mech levels, you can dodge into where they are swinging and you'll just like phase through it or something.
Yeah, the dodging in the mech and dragon sections is not good. You won't catch me defending it. I don't know how they could make this better without a massive redesign, we'll see.
One thing I really love about Eternal in 2016 is how every weapon had like 3 modes of fire, with mods that you could swap out of during combat. Every weapon felt like it had been explicitly tuned to fit a certain situation or scenario, and had certain drawbacks. In Dark Ages, it's like every weapon only has 1 mode of fire, and they just doubled the amount of weapons, so they all feel like they do less. The Ravager and the Punisher are a great example. Why are these 2 separate weapons when the differences are so minor? Since there are no alternate fires, the idea of upgrading weapons is also a lot less interesting, since it merely enhances the primary fire.
This is true. The guns are very straightforward, and you're tasked with picking the class you prefer or switching between classes. This can be seen as a downgrade in a vacuum. I just see it as a different system because of the other options that are available. Yes, 2016 and Eternal had gun alt fires, but it didn't have a shield with multiple abilities and 3 different kinds of melee weapons. You see what I mean? You can't look at one thing in a vacuum. The upgrades for your guns aren't like the other games where you're just upgrading that gun and that's all. Now it's about how those upgrades will synergize with other upgrades you have, creating different character builds in an RPG kind of sense. Maybe you want to invest in the armor properties of the shotgun so you don't need to use the flail for armor harvesting. Or maybe you want to use the cycler's shock transference so you also invest in the pulverizer to keep constant damage going in a room so the shot keeps moving. It's just a different system, one that has its own kind of fun. If you just look at the game through the lens of, oh, I don't have alt fires anymore, the weapons are downgraded, or oh, I don't have the dash anymore, the movement is downgraded, I think you're setting yourself up to miss the deeper aspects of what is actually on offer.
And instead of unlocking upgrades via challenges or combat tokens, it's gold now. Often placed just right out in the open, like it takes 0 effort to collect a lot of gold. Feels kind of like Donkey Kong 64, where they just put hundreds of bananas everywhere.
This is a pretty big mistake. Yes, you do collect gold to unlock upgrades, but it is not instead of challenges or combat tokens. It is in addition to. Many missions have 2 or 3 challenges that give you 50 gold on completion. Many of them are combat related. There are special combat encounters that protect rewards of gold, rubies, and wraith stones for you to upgrade with. Not to mention the dozens of leader arena fights that result in upgrades for ammo, health, and armor. None of this is mentioned, so this is one of the moments in the video I can confidently say is just wrong. Yes, there are trails of gold to find, but it's usually not in the situation he shows where it's just 2 giant collections of gold in a big empty room. That's one specific room. Usually it's just like 5 pieces of gold you find when you're on the trail to a new area. The rest is found through exploration or hunting down secrets. I don't see the issue.
The weapons feel off. I think it's a combination of the demons being much easier to kill and every weapon being good in almost every scenario. The game starts to feel very arcadey.
Yeah, the game feels pretty arcadey. I don't see that as a bad thing. The devs have stated how the main inspiration for this game's combat was the 1993 horizontal plane of strafe shooting and bullet hell action. And as I've said in other videos, gun variety balance is less stressed because it's not a game focused entirely on guns. It's a game that's also heavily about the shield and melee. I welcome balance changes, but this isn't supposed to be Doom Eternal plus shield and melee. It's a game where guns, shield, and melee are designed to work together with equal responsibility. And if you raise the difficulty, especially to Pandemonium and Ultra Nightmare, you'll definitely see the value in different guns. I can testify to that.
I mean, don't take my word for it. Immediately after you beat Doom the Dark Ages, go play 2016 and notice how different enemy behavior is. How possessed soldiers, even though they're cannon fodder, they can still put up a decent fight. They take a couple shots to take down.
This is another poor comparison because the context is different. The player options are different. The amount of enemies on screen is different. You can't evaluate enemy AI outside of their context. Let's take the alien for example. If you have a game with one alien, you want that alien to be super smart and adaptive and hard to kill. But if you're fighting 20 aliens, you can't give them all that same AI because it wouldn't complement that kind of action. So if an enemy behaves differently in 2016, it's because of the role it played in the context of 2016's action. In the Dark Ages, we're looking at this big horizontal battlefield flooded with projectiles and a bunch of parryable melee strikes coming at you. The individual AIs don't have to be that complex. The complexity comes from what they create when they work together. Yes, some enemies die faster than they did in the other Doom games, but you can see that they're also able to throw 4 or 5 Hell Knights at you at once. They can give you 3 Arachnotrons to kill surrounded by soldiers, and it doesn't feel cheap to not give you cover, because the Arachnotrons can be disposed of quickly now if you know how to shut them down. They are rebalanced to be used in new ways. And this criticism ignores a significant number of high health enemies you encounter. I'm talking about possessed Hell Knights, possessed Nightmare Imps that just won't die, armored Mancubi that have to be worn down first, and even just a regular Whiplash takes a lot more punishment than she did in Eternal, so not every enemy's weaker, some of them are stronger.
But in Dark Ages, they just throw hordes and hordes of useless, worthless cannon fodder that are so frail and feeble, one toss of your shield can kill like 30 of them.
Yeah. Occasionally there is a space where you can just throw your shield and kill dozens of fodder enemies. It doesn't happen a lot. Again, I don't know why this is something to focus on to represent the game when the vast majority of combat is actually made up of strategically placed heavies or waves of heavies. It just seems like a rare thing that bugged him, and so he wanted to talk about it, but ended up doing so in a way that makes it seem like it's pervasive.
I don't know, it's like all these shield guys, you know, I throw my shield at one of them and they all explode. You'd think they'd learn and change their strategy at some point.
You'd think the demons would also learn their lesson and just not fuck with the Doomslayer anymore, but hey, it's a video game and we gotta fight somebody. There are lines of shield guys that can be broken for armor, yes. I guess some people think that's stupid. It's pretty stupid that soldiers have been coming after us with these blue shields for the past 10 years when we always have a plasma rifle. This demon intelligence thing is not a real criticism. When I'm playing and I'm almost dead and I don't want to lose hours of progress, I thank my lucky stars for a random line of shield guys for some life-saving armor. It's also pretty fun to do.
Levels are a whole nother subject entirely. They have been dumbed down. A lot of levels are just like flat, wide open. Again, because they got rid of the double jump, they can't really add a whole bunch of interesting platforming. Therefore, secrets are less secretive and levels are less interesting. You kind of just glide across the ground in a lot of levels, massacring everything in sight. Very little like height advantage or environmental hazards or teleporters, man cannons, or power-ups. In 2016, each arena you fought demons in felt like a playground you had to master. Same with Eternal. Doom Guy would dance around a battlefield like Michael Jackson with his double-barreled shotgun blasting demons straight back to hell. It was awesome. Dark Ages, it feels more like you're a blender. Rarely does the environment itself pose any challenge.
Yes, combat arenas have a lot less of a unique identity due to the reduced verticality. I miss it. I'm on his side there. I think there could have been some more verticality included with a jump pad here and there or a grapple point. But he did say earlier that he liked the idea of stand and fight.
Run and gun, jump and shoot, stand and fight. I think that's a great tagline.
We want you to stand and fight against the biggest enemies we have. If you're going to stand and fight, we definitely have to give you the tools to do that.
You are less mobile, but tankier. Doom Guy is far more lethal than ever before, so demons feel a lot weaker, but attacking greater numbers.
I'm not sure how much of that philosophy can be preserved by bringing back all the mobility options of Doom Eternal that allowed for that kind of arena design that he yearns for. I think the combat spaces are pretty fun. They have an old school Doom feel with the obstructions used for cover, enemies using the high ground against you, and weaving through carved out paths. It works. I don't see how you can say the levels are just overall dumbed down. We have a mix of short linear levels and large open ones. We have optional missions and secret combat encounters protecting valuable upgrade resources, puzzle-like areas you have to find the entrance to, interconnected zones that make backtracking flow more naturally. How is this dumbed down? I need to know. How is it dumbed down compared to Doom Eternal when every mission is just walk straight towards the marker and hit the switch, and there's nowhere else to go? I'm not shitting on Eternal, I think its level design complements the action, but I can't see how Dark Age's level design is some kind of downgrade in comparison. He shows an image comparing 1993 Doom level design to now, and it's insincere. There are only a handful of these big open maps in the 22 level campaign. It would be better to instead compare it to a map like Sentinel Command Station that has a multi-level castle with some interconnected zones and backtracking through a central area. Not all these maps are the same, and they're certainly not all just big open sprawling spaces. His next bit is on the dragon and the mech, which I don't have much to say about, so I'm not going to waste your time. I do love his point here, though.
I do think it's funny that they added an enemy ship that always flies away from you. It's like the designers realized, hey, this is just people flying through corridors of nothing. We got to give them something to shoot, and that's what they came up with. But this ain't no Star Fox 64, that's for damn sure.
Yeah, it does feel like a, well, we gotta have something to shoot at. It's not good. And then he caps off the video with 20 seconds about how the art direction is nice.
Dark Ages might be the most beautiful and varied of the trilogy. But I mean, like, look at the art direction. It's fucking immaculate. If only the levels were better. Man. Ah, look at the ghost, look at that floating pirate ships out there and wherever the fuck we are. There's always some crazy shit going on in the background and you feel like you're part of a larger war. And with that, id Software has capped off a new Doom trilogy. History repeats itself, time is a flat circle, and once again, the third entry is the most divisive. But like Doom 3, will Dark Ages years from now be reappraised as a masterpiece? For first timers, it'll likely be a blast and you'll want to experience more, and then it's only up from there. While there's a lot I respect about Doom the Dark Ages, a lot of issues I have really come down to my personal preference. And I think the whole direction of medieval Doom was a wonderful concept. Around the halfway point, I felt like the game had mostly run out of magic tricks. And besides a few unique bosses, it did. Replacing glory kills with inferior executions is one of the most baffling and unnecessary changes they made. To remove what sold me on your last two games and give me a worse version of it, it makes my brain hurt, so I try not to think about it. But while Dark Ages may not be the most exciting, thrilling ride in the Doom amusement park, it feels like it belongs.
The way this whole video wraps up, I just take issue with. Because Actman has done some really good videos on some games I like and I don't like. He's capable of putting together a great script. He's charming, he's entertaining. Unfortunately, he's made a video that only briefly and sporadically mentions something he likes, and then spends the rest of the video talking about what disappointed him. It's okay to make that kind of video, I've made horrifically negative videos too, but not for games that I also went on to say were solid and could deserve as high as an 8 out of 10.
Although Dark Ages is a solid entry in the series, I won't be surprised if it turns out to be the most controversial.
That is unfortunately what this video does. It makes the game seem a lot worse than it actually is. The Dark Ages is an 8 out of 10 for me, the big Doom shill over here. I think the flaws it has are severe enough to drop it down to an 8. But all the good in that 8 have kept me playing it almost daily all month. How can you feel this is a solid 8 out of 10 and then make your official statement on the game 90% negative when you know it's going to get like 1 million views and leave an impression on everyone that the game isn't even worth their time? Because your video makes it seem like you didn't like it at all, but you do? I don't understand. It's nice that he states at the end that a lot of this is his own personal preference, but I don't get that feeling from a lot of his points. I think his views on exploration, secrets, the parry mechanic, and the story are genuine criticisms whether I agree with him or not. That's not just personal opinion. Overall, it's just not a good video. There are a lot of important omissions or misleading examples, which I assume aren't intentional and are simply coming from an emotional state rather than an analytical one. As of right now, I do believe the Act-Man is going to do another playthrough, and I even sent him my combat guide that covers faltering and animation cancels. There may still be hope. If he watches this video and still wants to do that discussion with me, I'll make it happen, and that'll be fun. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thank you, Act-Man, if you tuned in. Let's keep the shit talk to a minimum here, please, if you would do me that favor. If you don't like him, I still welcome the Act-Man to engage with what I'm doing here on this channel. Just how I'd hope someone would work with me despite their viewers not liking me. Alright guys, bye!